First, I want to get your reaction to these now deadly strikes in Syria, which are still ongoing. And what do you make of Israel's explanation behind them?
Uh, Clearly, Israel has its own objectives. It's claiming that it is helping to protect the Druze community in the southern part of Syria. There is also a Druze community in Israel. Some of the Druze in Israel have served in the military, while other Druze have criticized the policies of the Israeli government toward the Palestinians and towards the people in general in that area. One of the leaders of the Druze today left Israel and went to a town on the Syrian side, and he blamed Israeli and American policies for what's happening in Syria. There is no doubt that the Syrian government also has failed to deal with the basic issues. Syria, as was mentioned by some of your guests, Syria is made up of many different ethnic and religious communities. There are Christians, there are Alawites, there are Kurds who are different ethnic groups, although they are Muslims. Many of these people feel that the new regime is not taking their interests into account and that they are, in fact, being oppressed. And so as a result, we find a lot of tension. We have seen clashes with the Alawis, for example, in the Latakia area of Syria. And so all of this is being exploited to a large extent by the Israelis who like to see Syria divided and weakened, primarily because they want to continue to occupy the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights was Syrian and occupied by Syria in the 1967 war, and later in the 73 parts of it war, and more territory recently. And the Syrian government was supported, in fact, by the new government, by the United States, by Israel, by Turkey, and helped it to come to power. The U.S. has also helped lift some of the sanctions. Nevertheless, we continue, and Israel also participated. Nevertheless, I think the Israelis have their own interests. They want to see, as I mentioned, maintaining the control of the Golan Heights. They also want to see Syria and the neighbors weakened. They also talk about forced expulsion, in a way, of although they're calling it voluntary, of the Palestinians in Gaza.
So,
and in West Bank.
Edmund, quickly, I've got to ask you, specific Syrian areas were hit. The military headquarters in Damascus, for example, an area right near the presidential palace, even areas outside of Damascus. So what is the impact, one, to Syria's new government, which you said many of those countries supported in the beginning, and what does this do by taking out these buildings?
I mean, this is a very good point, very good question. Why? Because, as you mentioned, Israel was involved and supported the change in regimes, but at the same time, also, Israel and Syria have been communicating to try to normalize relations. Nevertheless, it appears that the Israelis want to weaken the Syrian regime, keep it weakened, keep the country divided. That allows them to achieve their objectives, not only in dealing with the Palestinians, but also in dealing with Syria and with other neighbors. And that is, I think, one of the main objectives of the Israeli.
So you mentioned the other neighbors, Lebanon, Iraq, Turkey,
exactly.
all already condemning Israel's strikes. What are the regional implications of the strikes? Are we seeing the beginning of a much larger conflict involving Syria and those other countries?
Exactly. I think this is a very, very good question, because I think if this kind of activity continues, we are likely to see escalations and more, tough responses, harsher responses than what we have heard so far from the neighbors of Israel, from the other Arab countries, although they have been critical of some of the activities, some of the policies Israel has pursued. Nevertheless, what we are seeing now is going to lead to increased tension in the region unless we see a close end to this conflict and to the escalation on the part of Israel, and to also the mistakes that were made by the Syrian government.
Professor Edmund Gharib, always great to get your take. Thank you so much for joining us from here in Washington.